Welcome to another true crime story time where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing that's right, my makeup. You know the rules. The comment section is a privilege. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. Look, we got to moisturized. What's wrong with me? Do not unsubscribe. Now, this story all takes place in Dana Point, California. Located just 60 miles south of Los Angeles, Dana Point offers a tranquil coastal lifestyle for those looking to get outside of the city. And if you live in LA, then you know, girl, there's only so much of LA you can take. Trust me. So it was mainly for people looking to escape the city life, get some peace and quiet, and it was a little bit more residential. In 1988, Janette and Richard Overton lived there with their 17-year-old son, Eric. Richard, then 60, was a successful computer consultant as well as a part-time professor. This man was busy. While 46-year-old Janette served on the local school board. She actually, I believe, was president at some point on that same school board, so she was doing pretty good. After 19 years of marriage. That's why I'm never getting married, and I'm fine with it. After seeing all of the crap in true crime, like, guys, I'm never getting married, like, for real. After 19 years of marriage, they seem to be the classic example of when opposites attract. Janette was friendly, outgoing, and sociable with a high school education. Now, Richard, he was regarded as a very smart man. In fact, he graduated high school early after attending for just 3 years. He was also editor of his campus newspaper. This guy, talk about an overachiever. Jan, as she was most often called by people who knew her very well, was described as a genuinely nice person, very positive, upbeat, always smiling, and always had something good to say. Like, she was one of those types of people where when you were around her, you just felt good. Like, you wanted to be around her because you knew you were going to have a good time. Janette was deeply committed to her role on the school board, a position she handled with great dedication. She had even served as president at some point, though her primary focus was her son. He was her pride and joy. Girl, look, my period just passed. I'm going into ovulation. The acne is real, okay? You can say hello to a couple of my little friends because they pop it up everywhere. She took immense pride in him, and one of her cherished dreams was to someday give Eric his high school diploma at Dana Point High when he graduated, the school in which she was on the board for. That's so cute. That's so cute. I mean, I'm not having kids that I know of, but if I did, I mean, that's so cute. What the heck was that on my face this entire time? And y'all didn't tell me. Y'all did not tell me. Y'all let me sit here with that on my face. Okay. I see how it is. The Overtons lived on a little tranquil cul-de-sac in a quiet neighborhood. From the outside, they appeared to be the perfect family. But as we'll soon learn, things aren't always what they seem. Oh my God, we forgot to prime my face. It was a chilling Sunday morning in January of 1988 when Janette and her son had planned to go whale watching with some friends on their yachts. After having breakfast, she and Eric were packing the van in the driveway when all of a sudden, Janette collapsed. In shock, Eric picked her up and tried to revive her and speak to her, but she was unresponsive. Panicked, Eric ran and grabbed his father, Richard, who was inside of the house at the time. Richard had planned on staying home that day. When Richard saw the state that Janette was in, he called 911 immediately. When paramedics arrived on the scene, they found Janette Overton unconscious, and she was rushed to the emergency room. Unfortunately, on the way to the emergency room. She didn't make it, and she was pronounced dead upon arrival. An autopsy revealed no indication as to the cause of her death. It was as though she had just dropped dead out of nowhere, which we know that doesn't just happen. So what caused Janette to become suddenly ill? We're about to find out. To find out more, the medical experts, the doctors who were working on her, looked into her medical history. There they discovered Janette had over 60 doctor's visits in the past year. That's a lot of doctor's visits. What? That is not good. Yeah, something's obviously was up with Janette, because there's no way you should be having that many doctor's visits, girl. She had seen a number of different specialists complaining of various ailments, from ulcers on her skin to crippling pain in various parts of her body. According to loved ones, there would be times when Janette's episodes were so bad that she would have to use a cane to walk. Now, despite seeing a number of different healthcare professionals, no one had an answer as to why Janette was experiencing these symptoms. It was a mystery, much like her death. Because they were unable to figure out what had happened to Janette, they ruled her death unknown. It was actually listed on the autopsy report as a pending investigation. Janette's death came as a shock to many. Family members, friends, and colleagues were devastated to hear the news. Jan was well liked, and they just wanted to know what had happened to her. It was extremely frustrating for them. It was an extremely frustrating time, to say the least. 6 months would pass with no new information and no new leads into the mysterious death of Janette Overton, until a woman by the name of Dorothy Boyer phoned the local sheriff department claiming to have some compelling information. You see, Dorothy told detectives that she was Richard Overton's ex-wife. Girl, it's about to get good. We about to find out some things. She about to tell him. She about to tell on him. And boy, did she have some interesting information for police. She claimed that Richard was a liar and a bigamist. Why am I not surprised? They had been married 20 years earlier. She divorced him when she discovered that he was married to another woman, while still being married to her. Yeah, peep that one. Not only that, you guys, but this man had a kid with the other woman as well. He had kids with both women. He had a whole other family and was maintaining and supporting both at the same time. I don't know how you do it. I don't know what to think about that. I'm like, wow. I don't know whether to think this guy is a G or no. He's definitely not a G. No. He's definitely not a G. It's definitely not a good thing to do. Was it really that easy? Much easier back then, you know, than it is today? Because I know, like, a lot of the guys today wouldn't be able to. It's hard to support one family. Imagine supporting 2 households. As you can imagine, Dorothy just felt completely blindsided. She thought that they had a good relationship and that everything was fine. But surprise! He was married to another woman named Caroline Hutchinson. In the divorce, Dorothy was granted full custody of their children as well as the house, which Richard was furious about. He couldn't believe that they gave her the house. Like, he was absolutely furious about that. I don't know, if you got enough money to support 2 households, then you'll be all right. Because that's like nuts to me. Like, really, do we have money like that? Are we out here? Are we ballers? I don't know why people be creating families and children and stuff and no one ain't got no dang money to take care of them. Like, come on, y'all. We gotta stop this. Almost immediately after the divorce, Dorothy started having health issues and experiencing similar symptoms to the ones that Janette had experienced just before she died. Dorothy would break out with sores on her skin. She would become nauseous at times. She would even have terrible aches and pains in various parts of her body, just like Janette had. Now, Janette, she began to notice that her illness was linked to Richard's visits. Whenever she would see Richard shortly after, she would become ill. One day, Dorothy had Richard over to discuss their co-parenting situation. After he left, she noticed that the milk that she had been drinking reeked of a very, very strange odor. So she took it to the police to have it checked out. A forensic toxicologist tested the milk and they found large traces of selenium. Selenium is an essential mineral that the body needs in small amounts to perform various functions, such as selenium helps the body produce antioxidant enzymes that neutralize damaging free radicals. So it works kind of as an antioxidant, helping to produce white blood cells, this sort of thing. It also helps with thyroid function, immune system. It helps with your DNA production and reproduction overall. Selenium may also be able to help protect the body from harmful effects of heavy metals and other substances that could be potentially poisonous. Overall, it seems like selenium is not a bad thing. However, people should only take it in smaller doses. Not as large as she was. I'm sorry if you can hear the air, it's on. It is said that for adults, you should only have up to 400 micrograms a day. So yeah, very, very small amounts of selenium. Now, Dorothy believed that Richard had spiked her drink that day, and she actually confronted him. She told him that she believed he was the one who had done it. She accused him to his face. She told him that he needed to admit to it, and that if he had admitted to it, that she wouldn't press charges and have him put away or locked in jail forever. He was, after all, the father of her children, and she just, above anything else, wanted to ensure the health and safety of the children. Richard was pressed by the police, and by pressed, I mean questioned by police, and when faced with all of the evidence, he did eventually admit to poisoning Dorothy's food and drink. He said he did it because he wasn't happy with the financial proceedings, with what the court had ordered him to pay, and the fact that she had the house and blah blah blah. Like, he just didn't agree with it. He was ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation and go to therapy. He was also ordered to complete anger management, which he did. He completed anger management, did his therapy like he was supposed to, and Dorothy kept her word. She did not press further charges and did not send him to jail. So you think everybody's in the clear, right? You would think that that's the end of it. Let bygones be bygones. That's the end of it, right? Nope. Because Richard was back to his old ways. Despite completing anger management, he made one more attempt on Dorothy's life after this. That is when Dorothy threatened him that if he made one more attempt on her life or anyone else's life in her family's, that she would send him to prison for good. I mean, another time, girl, he already done it one more time. What do you mean another more time? She was serious this time. And after that, he left Dorothy alone. He never messed with Dorothy ever again. Miss Dorothy, that would have been the last time for me. Do we really need another attempt on your life? Do we really need him to do anything anymore? Like, no, girl, that was enough. Put him away. With this new information, detectives revisited the details of Janette's death. They knew she had been unwell before she had passed away, showing symptoms such as nausea, trouble walking, pain in various parts of her body, sores on her legs and feet. Goodness gracious. I am not a foot person. I don't hate feet, but girl, yeah. You know what? You can cover those things. If not, they better be polished. Police realized that Dorothy, Richard's former wife, had also experienced the same symptoms after their divorce. Even more suspicious, Janette fell ill around the same time that their divorce had finalized. I mean, Dorothy and Richard's divorce. No wonder he stopped poisoning her. He was already on to poisoning the next wife. This is definitely going to be part of my excuse in why I don't want to get married, although I already have my own personal reasons as to why, but y'all, ain't all the cracks up to be. Police found Dorothy's account incredibly credible, but understood that the situation varied in key ways. Richard poisoned Dorothy after their divorce, fueled by anger at the time. However, he had claimed that he and Janette had a great marriage and they were happy together. He claimed to have been happily married to Janette with no issues between them. Therefore, police needed to first figure out if Janette had in fact been poisoned, and if so, had Richard been the one to administer that poison to her. Obviously, they can't bring charges against Richard unless they know for certain that he's responsible. Upon receiving this information, the lead detective on the case sought to exhume Janette Overton's body to conduct a second autopsy. However, this was impossible because you see, Janette had been cremated. When you get married, your significant other, your spouse, is in charge and gets a say-so as to what happens with your body once you die. Unless there's something in your will that says otherwise, usually the significant other will take precedence over what happens to you after death. And yeah, if they murdered you, they could just cremate you and nobody would ever know. It would be very difficult. This left the toxicologist with only the blood and tissue samples preserved from the initial autopsy to work with. And when they tested the samples for selenium, they found no traces of it. Undeterred by the challenges, investigators continued their work and soon uncovered that Janette had been leading a double life. Richard wasn't the only one who had secrets. Janette also had a few secrets of her own. She had been in a long-term affair with a man named Bill Dawson. I don't want to wait for our life to be over. I don't know why, but as soon as I said Dawson, I thought of Dawson's Creek. Now, Bill Dawson was a colleague from the school board. He was also the owner of the yacht that her and Eric, her son, was supposed to go on the day of the murder. Jeez Louise. Detectives questioned Bill Dawson about his relationship or situation with Janette, and he was very forthcoming. He told investigators everything they needed to know. Bill knew that this was not a good look for him, but he was still willing to tell police whatever that they needed to know about the relationship. He also provided an alibi, and he swore that he had nothing to do with Janette Overton's death. You know, you just never know. We don't know. Police found him to be very honest, and his alibi did check out, so he was eventually eliminated as a suspect. But if he didn't kill Janette, who did? So investigators switched their attention back to the most likely suspect, Janette's husband, Richard Overton. To find out if Janette had actually been poisoned, the forensic toxicologist re-examined the contents of Janette Overton's stomach and almost immediately detected the scent of cyanide. Now that's really bizarre because remember, they did the test before for the cyanide in the beginning and it came back negative. So, but this forensic toxicologist is snooping around and he's literally snooping around and he smells cyanide. A forensic toxicologist conducted a Parisian blue test on Janette's stomach contents, combining the sample with water and sodium hydroxide. After adding ferrous sulfate and bringing the water to a boil, any cyanide present would cause it to turn a rich Parisian blue. And guess what, you guys? The test came back positive. Just how did the first toxicologist not miss that and then this guy get it? That's weird. Now this indicated that Janette had ingested the cyanide shortly before her death. Not only that, toxicologists also discovered traces of cyanide in her brain tissue, suggesting prior exposure as well. The initial autopsy overlooked cyanide because cyanide and selenium are not part of standard testing. They only do that when they suspect foul play or they have a reason to believe that there's maybe poisoning, or if the examiner recognizes the scent of cyanide. Cyanide has a very distinct bitter almond odor, and not everybody can pick up on it. In fact, it is said that only 1 in 3 people can detect the scent of cyanide. Allegedly, it can also be genetic, whether a person can smell cyanide or not. It's definitely an easy one to miss just because most people can't smell it, but luckily this toxicologist was able to smell it. So they got lucky with just switching out the toxicologist, honestly. Investigators now felt confident about the cause of Janette Overton's death, but they needed to determine how she might have ingested the poison. With further investigation, they discovered that Richard had a friend in gold mining who would oftentimes travel for work and leave Richard in charge of his home. He would give him the keys to his house so that he could pick up the mail and check on his pets and things like that, unknowingly giving him access to cyanide and other metallurgical substances stored at the friend's residence. Be careful who you let in your house, because you never know. Okay, so I'm gonna go into this e.l.f. Velvet Touch eyeshadow palette. It is in Island Breeze, and I got this over 10 years ago in a Big Lots, and I don't think I've ever used it. I love these colors. I think I'm going to use this cranberry one right here. This prompted investigators to get a search warrant into the Overtons' home. Inside of the Overtons' residence, they found over 133 computer disks, all penned by Richard Overton, and numerous diary entries, with some of the entries even written in Russian and Spanish. This man thought he was doing a covert operation over here. These diary entries, along with the information found on the disc, painted a very different picture than the one that Richard Overton had painted to police initially. While Richard had claimed that their relationship was loving and close, the content of his writings starkly contradicted his claim. Numerous discs contained fragments of documents that had been deleted. These were sent to a computer forensics firm for examination. When something is deleted from the computer, it isn't erased permanently. Instead, it is marked as free space and can be overwritten if necessary. The data remains recoverable. The information retrieved from Richard's hard drive showed that he was aware of Janette's affair with Bill Dawson. Not only was he aware of the affair, but he was angered by it. Although he had been messing around, his writings overall just documented a relationship that was filled with turmoil. A week before Janette's death, he made a journal entry that read, and I'm gonna read it word for word: "The love-hate relationship between me and Jan has turned to pure hate. We'll deal with that soon." Excuse me? Richard meticulously documented Janette's activities, her coming and goings daily in his journal, including his suspicion that she was involved with several different men, not just Bill Dawson. Girl, look, I don't know what she was doing. I mean, both these people, y'all still married and y'all doing this? He was especially irritated by her relationship with Bill Dawson, with whom Janette and her son Eric were supposed to go whale watching with the day of her death. Notably, the journal entry from January 24th, the day that Janette had passed away, was torn out. During their investigation, police discovered that Richard had placed notes on every single car in the district's office parking lot. I don't know why I just got hung up on that. These notes were accusing Janette of having an affair with someone on the school board. Now, as you can imagine, this caused Janette a lot of anxiety and depression, because she couldn't figure out who had written these notes. I mean, girl, it ain't that hard, but I'm pretty sure she put 2 and 2 together later and totally figured it out. Certain sections of the handwritten diaries had been obscured with whiteout, leading detectives to believe that hidden underneath might be incriminating details. To uncover the concealed text, the diaries were sent to the forensics lab for further examination. They used a laser to illuminate the paper. Shining a light through the back of the paper allowed them to be able to see through the correction fluid. And as suspected, there was some very damning information. The hidden message corroborated police's suspicion, along with the other evidence they had found. With further investigation, detectives discovered that Janette had confided in a handful of friends about hers and Richard's relationship. She said that they weren't getting along and that they were no longer together. They slept in different rooms, ate meals at different times, They were practically roommates, living totally separate lives. Allegedly, she told her friends that she was going to leave as soon as her son had graduated from high school. She said, as soon as Eric graduates, I'm out of there. She also said that Richard was made aware of it. Could this be the motive to want Janette dead? That inner corner highlight, girl. Okay, can you see me though? I'm for real. Investigators needed to find out how Janette ingested the poison, and they needed scientific proof. Forensic scientists tested all of Janette's medications and herbal supplements. They ground them up in different ways, hoping that this would help them to be able to better detect the cyanide. However, there was no cyanide found in any of the supplements she was taking. Another issue that investigators were facing was that it was a known fact that cyanide could be created or produced in the body's system after death. It would produce naturally all on its own. Something about the way that it's stored or processed in the lab causes this to happen. Perhaps this was causing the cyanide that they were detecting and not that she had been poisoned. This, as you can imagine, was going to be a huge problem for prosecutors. Before they took the case to trial, the prosecutor wanted to make sure that the cyanide was not produced on its own accord, like by natural causes. Otherwise, how were they to argue that Richard had poisoned Janette if they couldn't prove that the cyanide came from an outside source and wasn't naturally produced by the body? This was a huge problem. So they reached out to international experts at Scotland Yard. Good old Scotland Yard. I've talked about them here on my channel before. They are like the originators of forensic science. Their forensic expert was one of the best in the world for cyanide poisoning. He also studied the conversion and evaporation rate of cyanide in the bloodstream after death. And he found that there was much higher levels of cyanide present in Janette's system than should have been due to death. Based on the scientific evidence, he came to the conclusion that Janette had ingested the poison just minutes before her death. This was all the evidence prosecutors needed to bring this case to trial. I'm a little pink today, but it's okay. It's winter time, so it's all right if I look like I'm blushing a lot. Finally, they had scientific proof that Janette Overton had been poisoned to death. And Richard, he was their prime suspect. Richard was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. By this time, 3 years had passed. At trial, Dorothy Boyer testified on the prosecution's behalf. She told the judge and jurors all about her poisoning experience with Richard. And shockingly, Richard Overton also testified, but in his own defense, of course. During cross-examination, he was asked why he had poisoned Dorothy, to which he replied he thought it was a neat joke. Sir, get this man out of here. Get this man out of here, taking him to jail. You thought it was a neat joke? What? The jury wasn't buying it. The forensic evidence, along with the circumstantial evidence, pointed a very clear picture, and it was damning. I'm still not sure if I want to do lashes or if I want to do a mascara. If you guys think that I should wear lashes, drop a winky face emoji with a kiss, with a heart kiss. If you think I should go natural lashes, just drop a regular winky face. Although I'll have already decided by the time I see your comments, but do it just for fun. Just for fun, just for fun. Thanks to forensic science and some great detective work, 7 years after Janette Overton's murder, Richard Overton was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, you can check out some of my other episodes. I'll leave them linked on the screen right here. Like, comment, and subscribe. All the amazing YouTube things. Share, because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next time with another true crime story time. Bye! Also, I forgot to mention there was a book written about this case. It's called Final Affairs. It's by the author Frank McAdams. If you are into books and you are interested, maybe give it a read.